Hey y'all, let's sew a Tinsley skort. The first step is going to be to prep your pocket pieces. You're going to press the top edge a half an inch toward the wrong side, and then you are going to edge stitch that in place. Next, you're going to take your side panel piece and you're going to lay it right side up, and you're going to place your pocket piece directly on top, also right side up, aligning the raw edges and the notches. And then you are going to baste the pocket along all three sides in place on the side panel. And you're going to do this with both side panel and pocket pieces. And then it's time to attach those side panels to the center front shorties. So I have my center front right side up, and I'm going to take my side panel and place it right sides together with the shorts, aligning the raw edges and those notches. And I'm going to stitch those together with a half inch seam allowance. Then you're going to do the same thing with the other side. And if you want to, after you stitch them together, you can press the seam toward one side and top stitch in place. Then we're going to sew the back pieces to the side panel. So you will take your back piece and lay it right sides together with the side panel, aligning those notches and raw edges. And you're going to do the same thing with the other side, right sides together, matching the notches and raw edges. And then you will stitch those back pieces to each side panel with a half inch seam allowance. And then again, if you want to, you can top stitch that in place. Then I'm going to fold my piece in half so that the back two pieces are right sides together, and I'm aligning that back curve, and I'm going to sew the two back pieces together with a half inch seam allowance. Then it's time to attach the gusset. So I have found the center of my gusset and the center of my shorties, and I'm going to place the unnotched edge right sides together with the shorties, and I match the centers first, and then each of the edge of the gusset to the edge of the shorties, and then just ease the rest into place. And once I have it all pinned, I'll take it to my machine, and I'm going to stitch that gusset to the front with a half inch seam allowance, and then give it a nice press with my iron. Then you will attach the other side of the gusset to the back piece. So again, I found the center of the gusset, and I'm going to match that to that center back seam, and then matching each edge of the gusset to the back seam. And there are notches on the back side of the gusset. They don't match anything. It's just so you know which side of the gusset gets attached to the back and which side gets attached to the front. So I have sewn that together with a half inch seam allowance. And then it's time to add the hem on your shorties. So along each leg line, you're going to press it up a half an inch toward the wrong side, and then top stitch the hem in place. And then you can set the shorties aside while we work on the skirt pieces. So you're going to take your center front skirt and lay it out flat, right side up. And you're going to take one side skirt and you will place it right sides together, and you are going to stitch the side panel to the center skirt. If you're doing the slit like I am here, you will stitch them together until you get to the notch, and then I like to just snip into the notch to the seam but not past it, and it makes this part easier of pressing the unsewn edges toward the wrong side by a 1/2 inch and then just edge stitching it in place to create the slit. And you're going to do the same thing with the other side panel on the other side of the skirt. And if you're doing this 2 slits, you will do the exact same thing, stopping at the notch. And if you only want 1 slit, then you would just sew it all the way up with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now it's time to sew our skirt pieces together. So I am putting the front skirt and the back skirt right sides together, aligning those raw edges, and you're going to stitch each side together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, creating the side seams of the skirt. Then I'm going to press that bottom hem up a 1/2 inch toward the wrong side all along the bottom edge of the skirt, and then edge stitch the hem in place. Now our skirt is finished and so are our shorties. I have quartered the top edge of my shorties and skirt, and I'm going to have both of them right side out, and I'm going to slip the shorties inside of the skirt, matching those quarter points and all the raw edges along the top, and you're going to baste these together about 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch away from the raw edges, and then we will treat these pieces just as one piece from now on. Once those are basted together, you can set that aside for a minute while we work on our waistband. You're going to put your main waistband pieces right sides together, the front and back, and you're going to stitch them on each short side with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, creating the side seam. And then you're going to do the same thing with the lining waistband, so the lining front and back, right sides together, and then stitch them with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then I'm going to flip my main waistband wrong side out, and I'm going to slip the lining waistband inside so that they are right sides together, and I'm going to align them at the side seams and all along the top edge, and then you're going to stitch them together around the top with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then after they're stitched together, you will pull the lining away from the main waistband and press it toward the wrong side. If you want to, you could baste them together along that bottom edge. Now let's attach the waistband to the skirt. So I'm going to flip the waistband wrong side out and put it over the skirt pieces, aligning the center front, the side seams, and the center back. And you will need to slightly stretch the waistband to fit the top opening of the skirt. Once I have it pinned in place, I'll take it to my machine and I'm going to sew them together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And your Tinsley skirt is complete. If you have any questions, you can leave them down below and I'll try to answer. If you sew a Tinsley, we would love to see that posted in our Facebook group or tag us on Instagram at Made for Mermaids, hashtag Made for Mermaids Patterns.